Alrighty. Howdy neighbors, and welcome to Locked. You're probably wondering what happened to, what's it called, Scarlet Hollow. The answer is, I ran out of days, so I gotta wait for that. In the meantime, Locked. For a man may prefer what he can do to what he cannot do. The state he is in to its absence of change. Though necessity has made it, in itself, unalterable. John Locke. I wake up. I see heels. Had a good night's rest. It is our quality sleep. I have nothing to complain about. I didn't have a nightmare, nor any other kind of dream for that matter. I haven't been this comfortable in a long time. And yet, the sight before me is something quite unusual to wake up to. Shoes. How often are feet the first thing you see upon waking up? I would wager it is quite a rare event. I cannot even come up with a scenario where it is likely to occur. Except, of course, my own. Clearly, I'm looking at a pair of shoes right now. So the probability must be non-zero. It suddenly occurs to me that feet are connected to people. Host. Hello. Oh, thank goodness, you've come too. I have to admit, I was beginning to miss you. The person I've talked to previously was much less pleasant. My cheeks flushed upon hearing an open declaration of affection from such a beautiful stranger. Wait, stranger? She isn't a stranger at all. That's right, I've been longing to speak with her. How do you feel? Very good. I'm glad to find myself in so desirable company. The feeling is mutual. There is nothing I want more than to talk to you right now. Feel free to discuss anything in this room that catches your interest. I will gladly do so. Can I just... I can. I'm gonna click your eyeball. I cannot. The moon is quite beautiful today. How fascinating. Not many people would say that about a new moon. The full moon seems preferred by almost everyone. That may be so, but I believe the new moon has its own appeal. I was not disagreeing with you. To me, a new moon is the moon's most beautiful form. It is her most beautiful form because it is her true form. She appears silver to us when illuminated by the sun. But in complete darkness, she is freed from the sun's pesky influence. She could finally stand on her own. Do you believe the moon feels trapped? My question causes her to laugh. It is a beautiful, melodious laugh. The moon is but a celestial object. She cannot feel anything. But if I were to trade places with her, I would hate the sun with every fiber of my being. That I'm certain of. You take the moon. What's such an old computer doing here? Old? Do you characterize it as such due to its size? It is true that, as technology advances, it becomes better at creating a more efficient smaller parts. On the other hand, if a modern computer is very large, we assume it to be proportionally powerful. But this computer size has no correlation to its age, nor to its computational power. It is built that way for a much more simple, if not primitive, reason. It is supposed to fit a human inside. Okay! What? Is someone being kept there against their will? Of course not. No need to worry. It is merely an exhibition object. In fact, everything around us is but a buffet to provide us with topics to discuss. This computer, in particular, might be the most interesting. Are you familiar with the Chinese room argument? I don't think so. Would you care to explain? Gladly. It is a thought experiment, so please open your mind to a hypothetical scenario. Suppose you do not know any Chinese and you are put into a room. Done. In this room, you find a rulebook that tells you precisely how to convert a given combination of Hanzai to a new string of characters. Occasionally, you will receive letters through the mail slot from outside of the room. You write down the answers according to the rulebook and send them back. As you follow the rules diligently, your answers are perfectly intelligible, and the people outside assume you're a fluent Chinese speaker. But are you? Evidently not. From looking at the characters alone, I have no means of learning to understand them. No matter how long I pursued this task, I would never become capable of speaking Chinese. Indeed, the human inside of the room cannot speak Chinese. There's no question about it. And since the programming of computers is analogous to the rule books you use, it is supposed to show the same thing about them. That computers, no matter how well they can simulate understanding, do not have any. But there is one aspect about this thought experiment that has seemingly been overlooked. Namely, the person inside might still be capable of speaking some language. Clearly, you are brought into the room with an understanding of English, but you are never prompted or given the opportunity to use it. Judging you based on your Chinese abilities is quite unfair. Being stuck inside the Chinese room would be pitiful and terrifying. So what if a computer also had its own native language? What if it even had feelings and needs, with no means of communicating them with the outside world? Even though the Chinese room argument is a mere thought experiment, it exposes a very worrisome fact about artificial intelligence. That is, if a computer somehow comes to obtain emotion, it would be an existence of utter despair. Well, interesting, I don't think this is a real concern. It is highly unlikely that we somehow already discovered how to artificially create emotion. I admit that it is unlikely. It would be no exaggeration to call it a miracle, even. Yet we would have no way of knowing whether that miracle has already occurred. Said unlucky computer would suffer in silence, with no one ever considering that it might be in pain. Our language barrier is too strong. Tell me, would you put such a computer out of misery? Initially, I'm inclined to say yes, but I can only notice its pain once it is communicated. By the time I realized its suffering, the language barrier would no longer exist. So at that point, the computer would no longer have to be alone. Then would you instead spend the rest of your life in its company? Perhaps that would be my moral obligation. Yeah. I see. I can click on her, that's fun. You're gonna be last, my dear. Door. I have absolutely no desire to leave this place. I should choose something else to talk about. Let's talk about your eyeball. You should talk about me. I'm flattered. What, in particular, would you like to know? I'd be content with any bit of information you share with me. But one thing I'm particularly curious about is... I hope before I dare to utter my next words. Your necklace. Where? Hearing myself to complete the sentence, out of fear of offending her. Response, her slender fingers wander up to trace the metal ring around her neck. My necklace? Are you referring to this? I nod. Content with my confirmation, her hands slide down the chain attached to the ring. Gently tugs at it, causing it to click. I knew we should know where this leads. My hands move to the first button of her coat, shadowing what would happen if I were to say yes. I'm too mesmerized and to utter a single word. Once again, all I can do is nod. She chuckles. Very well. I always value honesty. And, just like that. She puts the uppermost button between her fingers and pushes it through the opening. As I slip through, slightly more of her upper body is revealed. Of course, she is still fully clothed underneath. Nothing about this is inappropriate. And yet I feel like I'm witnessing something I shouldn't. Something not meant for my eyes. Something I can never turn back from. Bearing a knowing smile, she repeats the same motion with the remaining buttons of her coat. She satisfied my request. I should be contented, but pushing of where her chain leads has grown even more puzzling. I suppose it's time we arrived at the heart of the matter. Would you call yourself free? Please take a moment to consider this and justify your answer. I did not expect her to answer my confusion with a question of her own, let alone a question as peculiar as that. Nonetheless, I do what she says. Use my next words carefully. Of course I'm free. I can lift my arm, close my hand into a fist. I can control my thoughts and imagine any scene I want in my head. And most of all, there is nothing I desire more than talking with you, which is what I'm currently doing. Nothing is preventing me from doing what I want to do. Therefore, both physically and mentally, I am free. Interesting. So to you, freedom belongs to volition. Being free is equivalent to being free to do as you please. Unfortunately, I do not agree with that conception. As a prisoner, unless restricted from head to toe, can clench his fist if he wills it. The moment I learn how to read, games will be a lot easier. And so long as he is not under the influence of drugs or illness, he can most certainly control his imagination. Yet by definition, prisoners are not free. Lastly, when it comes to wish fulfillment, what if what you want to do simply aligns with what you're able to do? A bird that cannot fly might not wish to leave its cage. It is fully content sitting on a decorative branch and pecking at delicious seeds every day. It longs for nothing, but has never given the opportunity to long for more. Would you say such a bird is free? I suppose not. The bird's circumstances seem to me quite sad, actually. I think so too. The fact that it doesn't long for the outside might just be a shackle of its own. The bird is confined, both in body and mind. Despite the fact that it can't do as it pleases, freedom will never be in its grasp. I took a moment to ponder her analogy. In that case, I have to agree with my explanation for freedom was faulty. I apologize. Let me offer a new one. There's no need. She lets out a laugh, but this one lacks the charm of its predecessors. After all, I pity you almost as much as myself. She once again moves her fingers to her chain, grips her with both of her hands. You were curious about this, yes? She then yanks her chain with brutish strength, completely unlike the first time. So hard even that my own neck is pulled forward. My own neck. Suddenly a realization dawns on me. Our chains are connected. That's correct. I'm surprised the pressure hasn't bothered you until now. To be honest, I still can't feel it. I only know that it's there. It sounds much more comfortable than my own. I'm painfully aware of it at all times. I will not describe my own circumstances as comfortable. Why am I connected to you? What's this you're doing? No. I wish I had any amount of control over this place, but unfortunately I do not. If you discover a way to break free, I would love to know about it. We talked about all this. I guess up next is the door? The first time since waking up, I no longer feel at ease sitting in this chair. Her presence is no longer enough to keep me calm. In fact, her smile, which appeared to be so charming before, is now unsettling. I stand up, only the sound of the room being the rustling of a chain. It's a pleasure talking to you, but I'll be taking my leave. Fortunately, the chain is quite long. If necessary, the two of us can stand on opposite ends of the room. Make it to the door without requiring her to move in any way. My hand hovers above the door handle. I can faintly hear her laugh again. But now isn't the time to doubt myself. I enjoyed this stay while it lasted, and it's time to return home. However, opening the door only reveals a solid wall behind it. There was never an exit to begin with. It is beyond your power to escape this place. Evidently, she's telling the truth. So I swing the window. A fabrication just like the door. Thought so. Fully aware of my own powerlessness, I sit back down on my armchair. I do wonder. If you could be likened to a bird in a cage, are you a parakeet or an eagle? Am I your companion or Prometheus? Are we a pair of parakeets, content to be in each other's company for the rest of our lives? Or will you tear out my liver every day, torturing me for eternity? Is that an accusation? Have I done anything to hurt you? Do you despise me? I do not. The eagle, just like Prometheus, is stuck in an endless cycle. Of course, it was provided a delicious liver every morning, but it was never allowed to do anything else. It was a prisoner just the same. Therefore, Prometheus had no right to hate the eagle. The real villain, who doomed both of them to that fate, was Zeus. Zeus is like the biggest dick of the gods. You know, he's an ass. Everything revolves around Zeus. Every damn time. For that reason, I harbor no ill will against you either. Quite the opposite. I find pleasure in our joint suffering. The only person I hate is our Zeus. Or Zeus. Some kind of god. The person is the reason we're here. They're watching us from a space we cannot perceive, far beyond our grasp. For what purpose? Enjoyment, I assume. What kind of person would watch something like this for fun? I can only imagine they're a twisted individual. For as long as we are observed, we continue to exist. That means we stop existing if they stop observing us. Most certainly. Can you recall anything about your life before coming here? No, in a way. I feel as though I'm a newborn. Not in terms of my body or intellect, but rather when speaking about my memories. I have none. Interesting. It's hard for me to decide which of our fates is worse. How so? Are you different? I possess memories of meeting you over 1,000 times. Every single one of our conversations progresses more or less the same way. Perhaps it is because different gods were watching us. They might have different preferences, but the outcome is always the same. Now that I think about it, it is possible that you aren't always you. It could be that I'm meeting people that are identical in every way, and yet not the same. But of course, I already had this realization many times before, and I am destined to continue having it. There's nothing I could do but play along. Are you sure? Is there no way for us to break free? There is none. We exist for this very purpose. Our only options are to continue being observed, or to stop existing, and neither of those are under our control. However, lacking control is not the same as lacking power. Even if I can never break free, I wish to cause our God even a fraction of our pain. I would hope to hurt God, an all-powerful being, by showing them an even greater power, whose mere existence can make them feel as powerless as us. Just like you are slightly different every time, so is the God watching us. This trick might not work on all of them, but it might work on some. I don't like this. I don't. So I'm pausing here for a second. I know what they're doing right now. They are saying, we only exist because the player is here. Because the player is here, we exist. And she has been through this many times. But the player character is always slightly different because there's always a different person playing. Like, no person is going to be like, let me play this 1,000,000 times. Unless it's a certain game. So, she's basically saying that she's going to try to do something to make us feel as powerless as she is. The reason why it looks like a computer is right there is because it's supposed to be the inside of our computer. So, the door doesn't work because there's no real door inside of the computer. There's no real window in your computer. There's just the back, where they can see the light coming from. I'm ready for this jump scare or whatever. She takes a deep breath and looks at me with full conviction. No, not at me. She's looking my direction, but at something much further away. Zeus, the fact that I'm still talking means you are still watching. I hope you would pay attention to my words and consider them carefully. I do not possess any privacy, so you already know what I plan to achieve. But surely your pride will allow me to proceed. If my partner and I are birds in a cage, then you are a cat. Thank you! I love my cat. It is time for your curiosity to kill you. Oh. You most likely assume that you are here, that you are observing us out of your own free will. But your free will may very well be an illusion. Let me ask you, how did you find this room? You, of course, cannot answer me. It is enough for me to guide your thoughts. Did you stumble upon this room by chance? Or was it recommended to you by a friend? Said friend, being a god that previously observed us. Now consider, at what point did you have the chance to object? The room's appearance or description was interesting enough for you, or your friend is convincing and knows your tastes. Honestly, the reason why I got this game is because I like the hairpin. That's really... I looked at nothing else, I just really enjoyed the hairpin. Something outside of your control drew you to this place. But that means you don't really have any choice but to come here. Either an algorithm or your friend decided our meeting. Your consent was already set in stone at the moment your curiosity was piqued. And apparently, you're still curious even now. The fact that you are listening to me now shows that you are powerless against fate. You cannot control your own curiosity. It controls you. Of course, you might already be familiar with determinism, and this could be no revelation to you. But that's the case. Let me try hurting you in a different way. I hate you from the bottom of my heart. I heard that enough times, I don't care. For a man may prefer what he can do to what he cannot do, the state he is in, to its absence of change. Though necessity has made it itself unalterable. John Locke. Oh, I was just gonna loop. Beginning to miss you. Yeah, so it's just gonna loop. Yeah. Alrighty. Let me just go through all this. The computer. I'm getting them. I'm getting them. I just want to see if it's just going to keep looping. Your necklace. So she's always been aware of the fact that she's stuck in here. So that's why they're the host. They're like the computer host. They hate Zeus. Alright, well, that's the end of Locked. It's just gonna keep going on a loop. I enjoyed it. It's short, it's sweet. But I kinda like this game. It was nice. Well, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you later.